You good to go?
Yeah, I'm good to go. Okay, so we're going to tear down the ultimate trading fantasy, or one of the ultimate trading fantasies, prop firms, right? Curious to get your opinions on this. So YouTube and Twitter, they make it look, incredibly easy, low investment, low money up front, and access to massive capital and huge payouts. But what happens when the cameras are off, right? So I was hoping to dive into we can look at a raw and completely honest, what seems honest, by a Reddit user. It's a trader who grinded through the prop firm gauntlet for around 8 months. They actually got through the challenge phase, eventually got funded, and then lost the entire account in just 2 weeks. And the crazy part, what they're claiming is that they didn't lose because they didn't necessarily know how to trade. They lost because of the mental burnout, right? The strict drawdown limits and the sheer psychological pressure of being monitored broke them, right? So are prop firms a brilliant stepping stone, or are they a psychological trap designed to make you fail? I'll go ahead and read this trader's experience, and then we'll throw it over and chop it up for discussion. Let me just get that for you. Are you on standby?
Sounds fascinating, actually.
Okay, so the Reddit post is by a guy called Derek Kiplagat. And it opens up my honest experience with prop firms, the good, the bad, and the mental toll. So he says, I've been trading with prop firms for the past 8 months, and I want to share my experience. I hope this reflection helps anyone thinking about this path. He says, when I first found out about prop firms, it seemed like the perfect opportunity with low initial investment, access to large accounts, and the hope of making regular withdrawals. I thought, this is it. This is how I succeed as a trader. But I soon learned that this game is not as easy as it appears on YouTube or Twitter. The rules, especially daily drawdown limits and time constraints, impact your mindset more than you expect. I passed one challenge, got funded, and then lost the account within 2 weeks. I didn't lose because I didn't know how to trade, but because I was focused on not losing rather than trading with confidence and clarity. I realized trading for a prop firm is different from trading your own money. You face pressure, you're being monitored, and you constantly risk having your account taken away. That said, I don't regret trying. It pushed me to become more disciplined and structured. I learned to treat trading like a business. I started journaling every day, reflecting on my emotion, and even taking breaks from trading to reset my mindset. Something I never did before prop firms came along. And then he's gone on to say pros: low capital needed, high potential returns, accountability. And then he's got the cons: pressure, strict rules, mental burnout, and no room for experimentation. And then he's asked the questions at the end. If you're considering the prop firm route, ask yourself, are you trading to impress a firm or to grow as a trader? And he's open to other people's opinions, just like I am. So what do we reckon? What are your opening thoughts?
My first instinct is it rings so true. The psychological pressure has to be brutal. You're basically trading with someone else's money under a microscope, knowing you could lose everything you've worked for within a really tight window. That sounds like it would completely shift your risk tolerance and your decision-making process. It feels like they're optimizing for control, not growth. Like they're creating a performance anxiety situation rather than teaching anyone how to actually trade properly. What do you think?
Yeah, Miles, you jumped in with exactly, you were going to say something. Fire away.
A really good way to put it. Optimizing for control, not growth. It kind of feels like they're setting you up to fail, almost. It's like they want traders who can already consistently win under pressure, not necessarily traders they're going to help develop, which, isn't the worst business model, I guess, but it doesn't sound healthy. Do you think there's a way it could work?
Exactly.
Like a better setup?
Maybe if the drawdown limits were more realistic, or if there was actual coaching and support instead of just rules and monitoring. Like if they saw it as investing in your development rather than just monitoring your performance, maybe that would change the equation. But as is, it sounds like they're looking for diamonds in the rough who already have the discipline, not creating them.
Yeah, just wanted to chime in here, guys. So there's a comment here from a poster called Carlitos 1884. Carlitos 1884 says, I've been trading prop firms I've been trading prop firms, mostly Topstep, for the last 4 years. My biggest problem with passing the evaluation phases has always been impatience. When I do manage to pass accounts, controlling my greed is what prevents me from growing an account to be able to withdraw decent amounts. I've had a few withdrawals over the years. I've stopped trading with other prop firms and I only trade on Topstep now, mainly because of the risk settings they allow you to implement. This has been a game changer for me, he says. Locking in your max daily loss limit settings for the day is very important. Some days are better to trade than others, and having your settings locked, prevent you from revenge trading and blowing your account. I hear what he's saying. I think other firms do have lockout features, specifically on Tradovate now. I know, for example, firms like Take Profit Trader now have that built in. I think Apex still doesn't. But yeah, conceptually, I think he's on point here. What are your thoughts, Miles? I'll toss this one over to you. You can.
So that's interesting. It sounds like for some people, the limits are actually helpful, like a self-imposed restriction to prevent them from making bad decisions, like guardrails.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the difference between being told to sit up straight versus deciding you want to improve your posture. One feels punitive, the other feels proactive.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to bring up this slide here that we've got. So the illusion of leverage, and for those listening in that can't see, we've essentially got scales. And on one side, we've got the evaluation fees with a feather. In this case, it's a $200 evaluation fee. And then on the right-hand side, we can see the weight of a funded account, getting to the funded account. The promise is simple: low initial investment, access to massive capital, and regular withdrawals. The reality is much heavier. What are your thoughts on that?
The visual is perfect because it really captures how deceptive these prop firms are. On paper, $200 sounds like nothing compared to access to hundreds of thousands. But that little feather doesn't account for the psychological weight of potentially losing it all, or the months of grinding and passing challenges just to even get there.
Yeah, and there's another illusion here. Well, it's not an illusion if you actually know how things work, but a lot of traders fall victim to thinking that they actually have a full-size 50K account, where in fact they only actually have the allowable drawdown. So typically on a 50K account, you're allowed maybe 2,000 end of day drawdown if it's not intraday, which is a whole other thing to get into, which we won't get into. But yeah, essentially you've got a $2,000 account, not a 50K account. But yeah, that's an aside. Miles, what are your thoughts on all this?
Okay, that's seriously messed up. A $2,000 account masquerading as a $50,000 account.
Yeah, but it's not masqueraded because the prop firms put it out there. It's just that a lot of the people who are coming to the game aren't really, well, they're newcomers, so they're not really appreciating and understanding, that's the nature of what they're dealing with. So they're essentially caught up in the lights, so to speak, and thinking, yeah, I've got 50K in funding or 100K in funding, and not actually looking at what they actually have to play with before they blow the account. But yeah, Maya, any other thoughts on this before I move on to the next slide?
That makes a lot of sense. Like shiny object syndrome in full effect. They see the big number and don't do the math to realize how small their actual risk margin really is.
Okay, so now we've got the emotional activation curve. And again, for those listening in, we've essentially got a chart on the y-axis going up. We've got the emotional state, and on the x-axis, we've got time. And it's basically showing it starts off with the evaluation, showing a sort of steady climb up in emotions. The evaluation phase with a steady climb up in emotional state, and then you get towards the funded. You get into the funded stage, and this is where we're seeing a big circle right at the top, where we're seeing peak emotional state. It's not positive. This is I would say it's not emotional state. It's probably like a central nervous system weight or tax or something. At the top here, we're seeing a big circle. So this is the most draining or the most emotionally heightened, let's say, point, and it's when you're funded. That's why we've got that big red circle. And then what we're seeing afterwards is a potential drawdown that follows that, and will be that drawdown will be compounded by the fact that you are emotionally heightened as well. So, only to return and then redo the same thing again, right? So peak emotional stress, let's say, is in that funded state, funded state. So you face pressure, you're being monitored, and you constantly risk having your account taken away.
Oh, wow. That chart actually illustrates what that trader was saying perfectly. It's like they're setting you up to burn out at the exact moment you've achieved what everyone tells you should be happy about. The red circle makes perfect sense. That funded stage must be excruciating.
Feels actively malicious, almost like they've engineered the system to maximize stress. Wow. I definitely wouldn't have thought to approach it like that. Like intentionally designing for that emotional peak before potentially crashing. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it's that they've necessarily designed it for emotional stress, these prop firms now. They've designed the rules, in my opinion, just to, it's a numbers game, right? So they've designed the rules, they put rules in place that make it more likely that someone's going to fail, whether they're, emotionally heightened or not. The rules are in place to make it so that most people fail. It's probably a good opportunity to move on to the next slide, because this is the funnel of attrition. And again, for those listening in, we've essentially got a funnel, and you can see at the top of the funnel, this is what we've got an arrow pointing to that. The 99% beginners and the emotional gamblers, no edge, no risk management, they pay the evaluation fees, right? And then partway through, say halfway down this funnel, you can see we have a filter, and the filter is essentially the rules. That's why we've got this arrow saying the rules, pointing to that. That filter will filter out, essentially all of those. It will get rid of all of the beginner gamblers and the emotional gamblers, and only those that know how to stay and work within the rules will make it through, ultimately right down, hopefully, to the bottom of the funnel, where the 1% live, and they're the profitable traders that are cashing out, those that can stay within the rules and obviously can hold their emotional nerve, if you will, or have things to manage their emotional state. So yeah, and at the bottom we've got prop firms are businesses designed to profit off the failure. Prop firms are businesses designed to profit off the failure of 99%. They do not make money from your success. They make money from your evaluation fees. It's just a game. I know, Miles, you might say that it's malicious. The rules are open and there for everyone to see. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's malicious. But yeah, only a small percentage make it through, and that's just the reality of the beast, right?
That funnel is brutal. It really shows how they're basically filtering for people who can play the game rather than people who can actually trade. They're looking for rule followers, not necessarily profitable traders. It's a business model built on extraction rather than education. That 99% attrition rate tells you everything you need to know.
Right. It's not about fostering talent. It's about harvesting people who think they have talent. A little cynical, maybe, but yeah.
Thought you might say that, Miles. Anyway, listen, guys, it's been a great
somebody
conversation. It's been a great conversation. I will call back a little later and we'll see what else we can unpack. But yeah, feel free to leave your comments. Anyone listening, feel free to subscribe. And we'll move on to the next one.